Hi, I'm Dan Bryant, and welcome to the first series of Real Impacts, the podcast where we explore how organisations communicate with creativity and impact. Our focus today is equity, diversity, and inclusion, an issue that matters deeply but isn't without its challenges. Our guest brings calm, clarity, and a practical approach to creating meaningful change. Joining me is Cat Lynch, Community and Stakeholder Manager at KeolisAmey Docklands, where she leads initiatives that build strategic partnerships, enhance social impact, and deliver meaningful engagement across one of London's key transport networks. Cat is a highly experienced community and stakeholder engagement professional with over 15 years in management roles spanning the public, private, and voluntary sectors. She brings expertise in creating measurable change through grassroots engagement and cross-sector cooperation. At the heart of her approach is a genuine commitment to equity and accessibility. She ensures that communities and teams are not only heard, but actively involved in shaping outcomes. In our conversation, we'll explore why EDI is everyone's job, not just the specialists. We'll discuss how inclusion starts with awareness and action, and why belonging takes more than slogans. We'll look at how communication style makes a difference, why inclusion is deeply personal, and why you don't need to be perfect to make a real impact. We'll also explore the role of storytelling in bringing people in, and how small, local actions can deliver powerful change. This is an authentic conversation that highlights how progress, not perfection, is the foundation of meaningful EDI. And we'll discover how each of us can make a difference that brings broad and positive outcomes. Cat, thanks so much for joining me in this, our first series of Real Impacts. Obviously, I know you and we've worked together for a little while now, but just for the benefit of everybody listening and watching, could you just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your role and sort of your career history?
Thank you for having me. I'm Cat. I work as a Community and Stakeholder Manager for KeolisAmey Docklands, and they operate at the DLR. My career has been 10 years in welfare to work, and then 10 years in the charity sector, and I'm hoping for 10 years in this sector now, but all helping people, all working with a real diverse mixture of supporting individuals, groups and businesses.
And there's been, we were talking before, as a real community focus to your roles, right?
Absolutely. And so in the first 10 years, it was actually working with people long-term unemployed. So it was a very different community. And then in the charity 10 years, it was pre-COVID. So that was a different steer again. And then the last 3 years has been with communities in East London that perhaps wouldn't travel for whatever reason, and then making a betterment in those areas where the DLR operates.
Excellent. Okay, so today we're talking about ED&I. Broad question, what is ED&I?
In all of my roles, there's been an element of equality, diversity and inclusion. So the communities that we serve in the DLR, it's across 5 local authorities. And within those local authorities, they're in London, and they're a mixture of economical status, race, religion. So the protected characteristics that people talk about in ED&I, but also economically impacted as well. So for me, ED&I are all of those protected characteristics and the socioeconomic disadvantage for me is massive in ED&I. So yeah, that's what it means to me, and about fairness and just and they're very much personal beliefs that have blended into work and has made me able to do those roles that I've done previously and now.
So what does that actually look like in practice for you? So perhaps focus on all of your roles, and from the community aspect, what is ED&I and what's important and what's been important for you to consider?
Yeah. So for me, historically, so working for welfare to work, for example, it was about giving people job opportunities, so upskilling them to give them the best possible chances in life to go on and succeed. So that employment was a massive route to giving fairness and everyone an opportunity to do as they wish to do with their life. In the charity sector, it was slightly different because people were coming to us that had needs. But again, it was levelling up and enabling people to achieve their maximum, regardless of what is perceived as a barrier, and then giving them the solutions to create that. And then in this current role, it's more stakeholders. So ensuring that we engage with stakeholders that are fair and just to all of the people we work with.
How does working with different stakeholders help you to, I suppose, help people with diverse needs, like travel, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the community space, we do something called DLR Community Assist. And within that, there's lots in terms of identifying disability, physical and mental, and giving the solutions around that so that everyone has a fair opportunity to travel. But sometimes it's not as simple as just travelling. Sometimes it's that bit before, and it could be supporting with a confidence that enables them to overcome that. So I'm working with stakeholders that recognise that. So stakeholders that target different groups and different needs and have bespoke solutions. So actually listening and hearing the needs from people that have lived experience and enabling them to create solutions with us or on our behalf to support the people that need it.
So it's like co-creating and involving
Absolutely
those groups' voice in as part of the solution.
And not just groups, individuals. So we do a lot of work in community spaces. So libraries, carers forums, local authorities, and listening to people's first-hand experiences and their barriers and then creating those solutions. And that's been across the board in my career, actually, is listening to the experts, and they're the people with the lived experience to create the solutions. And I've sat on quite a few forums. So I've been a governor, I've worked in violence against women and girls, charities, and done listening to what survivors or victims need and created solutions around that.
Yeah. Have you seen it or been exposed to instances where perhaps that hasn't been the case and it's been more like, I don't know, so certain groups or certain individuals haven't been listened to and approaches or solutions have just been created like in isolation?
Yeah, absolutely. But I would say that the dial's moving on that. So when I first started working, there was a very top-down, this is what you need to do, without involving the people that it impacts. But more recent in my career, I think that listening to the experts and the people with lived experience or even academic knowledge on it is a much more preferred way of doing it. So the work we do in KeolisAmey Docklands, we will refer to user groups that are specialised in, it could be disability, it could be neurodiversity or physical disability, and say, look, we're thinking of this, what do you think? And we'll use that to evolve what we're doing and make a different project or evolve the project to incorporate their feedback, and it's just more successful listening to the experts.
So obviously we're speaking a lot, for want of a better phrase, customers and your work and and sort of the impacts on that group of people, but on the other side of the coin, a lot of organizations, so it's really important for organizations to focus on employees' experience and a sense of belonging. So what makes it harder or easier for people to talk about a sense of belonging, within an organization?
It's a good question. I'm dyslexic, so I've had first-hand experience of this. And again, I think we're in a really wonderful time where it's not only accepted, it's celebrated to be different and share different experiences. So I think for me and my team, I am very lucky because I have a real mixed, confident, open team, and I will lead with, I get additional support with this, and I'll go with my own user experience to open that conversation and let it know that it's a safe space to have those conversations. In a broader term, I think the culture and the expectation needs to be across the board. But I think if you do that locally as well, that can have ripple effects and people will feel comfortable to have those conversations. I've worked in Croydon previously, which had many challenges, and I used to sit on an open group. And what I always found quite interesting was, to be an ally, you need to be able to make mistakes as well. And it needs to be a safe space. So a learning from me was not never, because I think there's exceptions to every rule, but having a safe space to have conversations and ask questions and learn. And if you're going to be an ally to any ED&I, you need to be able to talk to people that are not going to penalise you for asking questions or make you feel that you're not entitled to ask questions. Equally, you've got to do the own work yourself. So I've read many books on different versions of ED&I. But yeah, I think having a safe space and having allies in different spaces that you can talk and ask questions are really healthy.
Okay, and then sort of linked to that, how have you made sure different voices are heard, both like in meetings, but then more broadly in organisations?
I think in communities, it's interesting because you will always have someone that always volunteers, always puts their hands up and is always eager to talk, which is amazing. But it's the people that don't talk you want to hear from. But I will go out to talk to those people. And there's something that I've done. So I'm a NHS licensed practitioner to deliver something called Expert Patient Programme.
Oh, didn't know that.
There you go. So, but part of that talks about enabling people to talk about their long-term health conditions. And one of the tools that they teach you in that is giving people space. So there's loads of different ways you can do it. It can be a wooden spoon. So we take turns in holding the wooden spoon. But the most impactful version that I found is just being silent. As much as I love talking, listening is so important. And when I deliver these programs, they tell you to count for a number of seconds. I'm not going to tell you how long, because next time I'm talking to you, you might use it against me. But actually, for me to be silent for a set number of seconds, people don't like silence and they don't like awkwardness. So the person that doesn't always have a voice will quite often speak. So if you don't get it in a one-to-one and you don't get it in the silence, there's other ways you can do it. So you can do it in writing, you can send a message, you can do it on those ways. So yeah, I think it's finding different forms of communication and giving people space and freedom and confidence to talk.
Okay, that's really interesting. Because like even just like a sort of obvious example here, like doing this, it's like the natural reaction is for me to jump in and talk to you. But actually, what I've learned just through the few episodes we've done is the quieter I am, the more the other person will talk, and the richer conversation will develop from it.
Yeah, and also always coming from a place of not knowing. I think curiosity is key as well. So rather than assuming you know, assume you don't know. And it could be, because there's that old phrase, teaching someone to suck an egg, but actually there's new ways of doing things, there's new thinking, there's new approaches. So actually going with a blank canvas and thinking, I don't know this and I want to know it, has also been really useful for me in having conversations with different communities or stakeholders.
Unconscious bias is something that's often spoken about, but it's not always clear what it is. So what are your views on it and experience of it in the workplace?
Yeah, it's a tough one because we don't want to admit that we've got unconscious bias, but we have. And I think there's something healthy in us sitting in that uncomfortableness and appreciating that our lives, whatever they are, will have given us some unconscious bias. And it's interesting because I've met people and I've made an assumption that they must have had a private education. So unconscious bias can go everywhere. And because someone spoke well, I assumed that they had had a fantastic upbringing. That's an unconscious bias. And there's obviously the other side where there's a particular age, race or sex that it might be, or dyslexic might be that you're not great at reading or writing. And they're not true. So I think for people to own that uncomfortableness, that they've got them and challenge them, would be my takeaway.
Okay, and how do you think that specific solution, how can that be? What does that look like in reality? How can people be more aware, do you think, of unconscious biases, and how can how can that challenge be addressed?
Yeah, I think people have got to take ownership. There's plenty of books. There's plenty.
You love a book.
I love a book, not TikTok, because you can't fact check that. But I do. I think there's plenty out there for people to take on board and learn themselves. I think there's a laziness that people go, I haven't got it, or don't. Go away and learn, and take that on yourself and understand your upbringing and how that, or everything you do in life will taint your picture of everything else in the world, whether it was a positive experience or a bad experience. And I think that takes personal responsibility. I don't always think that's an employer's responsibility. That's you as an individual. And if you do something in work or in your personal life and you're noticing a trend, challenge yourself. So am I having these conversations more with someone of a particular age? Am I assuming someone doesn't know about technology because of a disability? Like, constantly challenge yourself. It shouldn't. I don't believe it should take someone else to pull you up on this. You should constantly be doing an audit on your own perceptions and reality and your own experiences.
Yeah, that's really good, because it's so easy, isn't it, just to go along with, because they're unconscious. You don't realize, and you just go along doing as you've always done, and perhaps interpreting situations or responding to situations in a certain way. Because
I don't know. I kind of feel like that was okay maybe 10 years ago, but now there's enough out there for people to know that we all have unconscious bias. And it's on us to learn about that and challenge that. We wouldn't like it when someone had an unconscious bias about us, or treated a particular way. So I think if society, communities, stakeholders, colleagues, friends, neighbours all did that groundwork, it would just be a better place, right? Wouldn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Just we all took ownership of our. I was going to swear then, but I won't swear.
Yeah, we can bleep it out, I'm sure.
We all took ownership of our own stuff.
Yeah.
Our own pros and cons. Like that's that. And in schools they're doing this as well. So they might not call it unconscious bias, but it's challenging a belief system, or where did that originate from? And was that fair and just? And I think as adults now, we've just got a bit of catching up.
Yeah, and yeah, that's great that sort of thing is education around unconscious bias is happening in schools now. But the bigger challenges, like you say, is how do you encourage the whole of society to look at, to challenge their views?
I'm not sure I've got a magic solution, but yeah, I still think it's personal. You can't make people do some of these things. You can't unpick that for someone else. So whether it's a daughter telling a parent, or whether it's a colleague telling a colleague, or I don't know. It's personal preference. I haven't got a magic wand, but that
Tricky one, isn't it?
It is tricky. And if it was easy, it wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, true.
Opinions, they have merit. Like, they're what's important to someone as an individual. But it doesn't make, not everything is a right and wrong. Sometimes different people's opinions are valid, and they have to have a space to have it without harming others. So I remember believing that when you become an adult, you knew everything. So things like politics, it'd be very clear cut. And as I've got older, I've realised no one knows everything. There's no magic wand to fixing this. And that's why it's so important that we do work with communities. And even the stakeholder piece will be looking at what strengths they can bring and we can bring, and that Venn diagram middle piece, and how we work together to create a better place.
Looking back over your career, what's something you've done or learned that's helped you become a more inclusive leader?
I think the big one is listening and going in without assumption, which is really hard to do, because I'm a go-getter. I'm a get up, and I want to get it moving. But actually, if you give people space, the solutions they have, more than likely they're better than your own. And you can always make it fit whatever it needs to be on the budget or whatever. And actually enabling people to have the solution and then create that is huge. And that is the same for the community piece that we do. It's listening to communities and tailoring the solution based on that.
So, Kat, in your view, what role does storytelling, including video, play in making EDI messages more human?
Storytelling in video is immense. As a dyslexic individual, the story will land and stick much stronger in a video. And we did some work when I first joined KeolisAmey Docklands on community, and we've been doing it for a long, long time. But there were still people that weren't quite sure within the business and outside of the business what it was we did and the impact. And actually, we commissioned and did a video and use that now in training, and it lands. So I do this this lovely piece on training, going, what do you know about the community team? And show of hands. No one shows a hand. And then I've showed the video and I go, what do you know? Show of hands. And they all show their hands and they're like, I didn't know you did so much. I didn't realise. I've read some articles on the intranet, but I didn't know you did so much. So that lands, and actually it stays with people. And then we're on the network, or we're taking people out on the network. The PSAs recognise us and say hello, and they know who we are. So there's definitely a massive piece in that. And more recently, my daughter will watch messaging on various platforms in video, and even revision now. She does lots of revision through videos, bite size and that type of thing. So yeah, it definitely adds a different message and not different message, it's a different delivery that lands with different people, which is what's important, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I keep saying right.
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 It's the first time I know you saying it. Right. And then are there any internal campaigns that you can think of that have really helped foster a sense of belonging at work?
Yes. So I mean, the one I just spoke about hugely. So that knowing who we are and what we do and the impact is massive. Not in my current role, but I've definitely done some great campaigns historically throughout work. So I did some recruitment and noticed that there was only one demographic applying. And so I changed where we advertised and put it in different. This was back when newspapers were used for advertising jobs. So we actually changed the publication and we got a much more diverse pool of applicants, which represented the area much better. So throughout my career, there's been lots of sort of, and I think, again, it's back to that challenging yourself. Like another thing that whilst talking to you, I've been thinking about is language. And I don't mean different languages. I mean what we use. Something happened to me with my first job interview. They said to me, what do you know about the labour market? And I said, I'm not into politics. Because I was 17. I had no idea that labour market meant employment or jobs. Yeah. So again, when you're talking ED&I and your audience, I think there's definitely knowing something about knowing and just being respectful or not, and not penalising people for not knowing what you know, because there's we don't know it until we know it. So I mean, thankfully that job interview, I did get the job, and I still remember it now because obviously it was funny and they laughed and I was like, huh? But yeah, and I'm conscious of some of the work that we do out in communities, that we might talk about a certain cohort or a barrier to travel or a demographic, or so in the boroughs we have, some have a really low attainment rate but high income, and it actually we've got the others in other areas, and actually it's sort of the local people don't care about that.
Yeah,
it's I mean, come with respect and know your audience, and I think that language piece is huge.
But and I suppose like with labels, there's potentially that it comes back to that unconscious bias piece again, and actually attaching a label to someone. What connotations are there unconsciously, with that?
Well, we're writing a bid, so that's normal in our language. That's really, and I say we as in in all my roles, there's been an element of applying for contracts.
Yes.
So the contract language and the people language is different. And I think you should just treat people as people. I've been on some training, read some more books, and that whole thing about treating people like humans is huge. And how would you want to be spoken to? I believe in people. I believe in communities. In in my career, I've also done something called asset-based community development.
Okay.
And it's all about what's strong, not what's wrong in communities. And there's a fantastic guy called Russell Cormack who leads it, and he's a psychologist and he's done lots of work in community. It's not completely relevant to the role now I do, but there's pieces of that. Like anything you do, you take the bits that work and roll with it. And he talks about, what's strong, not what's wrong, and building on that and giving people ownership of their identity and what they bring to the table, not what they haven't got to the table. And that sits so deeply within my core belief in communities and businesses and everything you do. Everyone has something to bring to the table.
Yeah. In terms of onboarding, so whether that be new employees, new team members, or in your in the work that you do, new communities in an area, what is inclusive onboarding, and what considerations do you have to factor in?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ripples from what we've spoken about already today, because again, it's treating people as individuals or groups based on their needs. So for my onboarding, there would be a core criteria. So that especially in RAL, there's an element of safety that you need to do, but then there's that cultural piece, and that safety and talking about if there's any reasonable adjustments, any needs, any support. So for me, that's huge. And as someone that had that when I joined, and had software to support me, I like to do that pretty much from day one. In a broader scale, so if we have a group that perhaps, so onboarding a new community group to perhaps be in our repertoire or who we work with, it would be about what we can offer, they can offer, and that piece together. And stakeholders, I suppose that's very similar, but it'd be more about the collaborative piece. So what can we bring to the table? What can you bring to the table? And how we betterment of the local area. So looking at what we both bring, and if there's strengths on one or the other, and how we learn from each other and share best practice. So for me, that's broader, but it's the same sort of thing. It's understanding strengths and areas of improvement.
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And just sort of building on your personal experience, why do you personally care about ED&I, and what keeps you, Kat, motivated to keep learning more?
Yeah, I love people. So for me, I just love humans. So for me, the fact that you can talk to someone and they have had such a different life experience, the enrichment that can add to your life, that experience, and the respect and the dignity that we can all afford each other and learn from each other. I just think there's something really rich in that. And I've always had that. So I've had that since being at school. I was paired with helping people with reading because I just loved working with others. So for me, the biggest thing, and what I'll always be at the centre of my core, is working with people, helping, supporting, uplifting. And it gives me energy. That is my motivation.
Thank you, Kat. It's been really, really interesting talking to you, and I genuinely think we've only just sort of scratched the surface. You're clearly really passionate about people, and learning about people and their experiences, and you're very wise from obviously your experiences and what you've read. So I'd love to find out a bit more. So, but perhaps we can do that on another episode. But for now, I've got one more question for you before you go. And it's about your roles that you've had in this space. What is the most the thing you enjoy the most about your job role or job roles, and the thing you find the most challenging?
What I love about my job is every day is different. So I've just been given the opportunity to do more stakeholder management. And that's building on the strength that we currently do in the community space, and looking at, again, sharing best practice, strengths and all of that. And I love continuous improvement. I think there's real strength in evolution and improving and all that piece. What I find challenging is on a personal level. So I'm a lone parent to a teenager, and I love working. I've always loved working. And I love being a mum. And actually, I think striking a balance between the two can be a challenge. and I want to finish a report, but equally I want to help her with her homework. So sometimes I have to really push myself to set myself some boundaries. So that's my honest challenge. And I haven't quite got a solution for it yet. I'm 13 years in, I should, but I haven't. And I get mum guilt and I get work guilt, and I get imposter syndrome. I get all those things that people go, do you? And I go, yes, absolutely.
And I can see you love work and your daughter, because she gets to see you here doing this as well. So I bet she's very proud.
And I'm very conscious that my work enables me to give her a life as well. So in my sector, when I worked in charity, it didn't pay well, and it was really challenging, and we was on the breadline, and that had different challenges because there was things we couldn't do, but I had more time with her. So yeah, when I talk about equality, diversity, inclusion, I always think about, so one of the protected characteristics that's not included is low income, and I think low income is massive, and it really should be on there, because the trickle effects in society and opportunities often come from income. So yeah, as much as I say that's a challenge, it's afforded me and her better opportunities by doing harder, challenging work that's rewarded better as well. So there's a fine line, and if you know anyone that's got the answer, let me know.
Thanks, Kat, again for coming today. It's been great talking to you and learn a bit more about your views and your career today, and feel like I've learned a bit more about you and other parts of your character I didn't know about before. It's been really, really interesting, and hopefully we can do this again and explore some other topics in the future.
Oh, Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You can find more episodes of Real Impact on your favourite platform. Follow us on socials and check out our website for more.